Grand Day Rising everybody, and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I'm sitting up in bed. I've still not got any makeup on, but I'm not really that bothered. I haven't had a very good night. I'm in pain with my lower back. The base of the spine is a little swollen. It's a recurrence of my inflammation of the sacrotuberous ligament, which hasn't really flared up for the last few years, but it's decided to in the last week or so. Now, if you think of the lower back as being one of the points of the root chakra, which is to do with grounding, I may be grounded, but what about the collective? And certainly, due to the inflammatory nature of my back problem, does that not mirror the inflammatory energies within society and indeed the world and the human collective right now? Therefore, I think it is opportune to bring forth a few words of maybe violet pill teaching or thought. I don't know it all, but I think together we can learn an awful lot. Now then, it was yesterday my subscriber at Glamorous Lioness brought forward a very good piece of teaching about control as one of the players in R and SA and indeed DA. And if you don't know what DA is, it is, let's say, behaviour in a domestic setting. Now, there are many elements to control. I will link the video that she brought out, the short yesterday that she brought out in a community post. And indeed, I may add it to this video. There's some very important stuff in there. For example, you might be deprived of the ability to earn money. You might be given a strict allowance. You might be denied the opportunity to get a job. You might be gaslit, made to feel that you're worthless. And these are just a few examples. Now, as I said to her yesterday, this analogy can be transferred to other forms of abuse. For example, what about the toxic relationship between government and its people? Or the toxic attitudes and behaviour of not just the mainstream media, but even the alternative media. And also between other bodies such as ministers on an individual basis, even the church and other religious groups, and schools and the NHS and the police against people in society, and even different groups of people and individuals in society as well. Now, let's talk about raise the colours. We can all agree that there's been some very worrying things going on in the UK, especially over the last 14 months or so. And a lot of us are deeply concerned about the effects some of this might have, particularly on women and children, and we're concerned about the future of those less fortunate than ourselves, such as the homeless, veterans, for example, families, people maybe losing their rental accommodation, the elderly with the loss of certain benefits, as are maybe the disabled, and certain bills as well that have the ability, if passed, to make decisions over people's lives that they may not otherwise choose, because certain other services such as palliative care are not as they should be. And those who are caregivers are so stretched they simply cannot do their job in the ethical manner in which they are expected to perform. So all these people who are concerned and are proud of their culture may be classed, say, as far right by the media and by governments and other spectators, because they are disagreeing with the way things are going, not because they are far right, but simply for disagreeing with the way things are going. Now, of course, in every group, you will have fundamentalism. It's the same with people who are labelled far left, who may just believe in equality for all and fairness and want everybody with access to, say, benefits or the same opportunities in any setting, and they might be classed as far left. These are labels, and in a world which is supposed to be transcending from the three-dimensional into the five-dimensional, is this label, culture, anywhere near what is expected of us as a collective in order to be able to move up to those higher vibrational frequencies? If you take, for example, say you're in a public space, at a big public event, and it's a joyous and peaceful turnout of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people, although there may be very wide variations of how many people there are at the event. And there again, if that is really important to you, you need to weigh up for yourself in terms of numbers what truth resonates with you. And all of a sudden there is a tearing up of a flag that does not fit the particular ideology of the event. Is that, would you say, honourable behaviour? Some people, of course, believe an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and may argue, well, our flags have been trashed But this matter transcends flags, folks. This is, to me, another form of toxic behaviour. You did it to us, so we'll do it to you. Is that acceptable in a 5D world? What would Jesus have done? Remember when he went into the counting house and turned over the tables and called out the hypocrites? Remember that. Is it not hypocritical that this might go from an afternoon of joyfulness and Christian worship? We are a Christian country by nature, and then turn into an episode of destroying other people's flags, whether or not we agree with what those flags represent according to our particular ideology. See, this is about egos, folks. We need to put down our egos. And whilst most people are honourable, in every group in society there's an element that isn't. If you were at this event and saw the destruction of another flag, how would you feel about it? Would you be accepting of it and carry on, or would you think, this doesn't resonate with me or my energy or my values? We need to be honest with ourselves, folks. Jesus would have turned the other cheek, and he would not be destroying flags, I don't believe, because there's more important things at the heart of this. Imagine if you are a patriot walking down your street. You might live on a council estate or a private road, it doesn't matter. You may have been born and brought up here. You may have legal citizenship. You may have been a refugee and come in the conventional way and have gained status and have a job and paid into the system. But you may not be white. You might be, say, mixed race or Asian or black, or you might come from Eastern Europe, for example. It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. What matters is that you're walking down the street and you have assimilated into the country, you're law-abiding, and you're fully integrated, and you love living in the UK, and then somebody viciously attacks you with words or maybe even deeds. And if somebody was an onlooker, what would they do? What would they do? Would they just stand there and let it happen? Or would they step in? Would they have the courage to step in? So remember, folks, the British culture is far more than just flag waving. It's how we are as people, or have been in the past. Stoic, accepting of others, knowing the difference between right and wrong, loving thy neighbour, doing good deeds for others, upholding our values. But it would seem that more and more there's like a toxic infection of indoctrination coming from all sides. And no, not just the mainstream media. All the groups are infiltrated by a smaller number of negative people. And if you think of things as a chessboard, let's look at a chessboard. We have a chessboard. On that chessboard we have a king and queen, which doesn't necessarily mean the king and the queen. It could be an elite. It could be somebody very high up in other ways. You could maybe think of it as in terms of government individuals, perhaps such as a prime minister or other senior minister. Then we have bishops. So that's not just the church, that can be other, say, religious leaders or people who are a bit preachy and think they know more than others. And then there might be the knights, and they're maybe, say, doctors, teachers, civil servants, people in business, maybe big business. And then there's the pawns, which is most of us. As a critical thinker, I would also be one of those pawns. Now, in the game of chess, the idea is one of strategy and to get to checkmate, where you take out the king and the queen and all the major players. And this can be done by the pawns, but in such a way as the strategy is calm, cool, and calculated. So we're very much entering the game of chess, and as that glamorous lioness said a few days ago, the eye of the storm. And it's very stormy here today. It's been all night. I've been awake since about 2:30, 3:30. I have had a few good naps since then, but the wind and the rain has been very leery. And that's what it's like at the moment. I am not judging anybody. All I am saying is, folks, use your discretion. Try and instigate your personal radar. I believe all of us are being played. There are multiple players on this chessboard, as there is in any game or tournament of chess. And we need to be in it for the long term. So let's stop arguing about numbers. For example, how many people were at the rally the other day? Does it really matter what the BBC or anybody else is reporting about how many people there were there? The point is, people turned up. There was a dangerous situation in Whitehall and they couldn't get everybody in, so some people were not able to participate. So there may indeed have been 2 or 3 million turn up, but not necessarily be able to stay. However, there was many more people than thousands or 100,000. The point is, people turned up, and spectators will have seen how many of us are not happy with the way things are. But please, let's not have any playground behaviour at this critical time. We are all being played. This war isn't really about each other. It's us versus those who see themselves as the major chess players at this moment in time. It's about the ego and the superego. And we need to be more of the id, the ID, which is modesty, tolerance, open-mindedness, prepared to listen to each other. Somebody lost his life last week from his ability for open debate. Somebody did not like the fact that he was open to debate and was prepared to sit on a bench with anybody from all walks of life and talk about things. Some people laughed at his death and ridiculed him in his death, and indeed were joyous about his death. Now, there but for the grace go I, were the brute on the other foot. How would they feel if they were in his family's position? And what opportunity would they have if they had been in his place? They would have had none. And when they had passed through to the other side, how would that make them feel? There's lots of healing to be done, folks. Let's unite and help to heal each other and get through this very difficult battle of this despicable war. And if you think this is a delivery in riddles, well, perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. As a critical thinker, though, it is just my thoughts. And on that note, I'll say, I hope your day is a good one and you make the choices that resonate and feel right to you. And remember that our choices and our decisions are ours alone. We need to take responsibility for our own choices and decisions, and also respect that other people's choices and decisions may not be the same as ours. And this is the whole point of what has been going on. The indoctrination started some years ago, and I would hasten to say advanced significantly during the global incident. So on that note, blessed be. and see you again soon. Bye for now.